Hello y'all, welcome back to the channel, and we have some new t-shirt designs on the website, and you can check this new one out right here, ching ching, and it inspired this evening's talk. We wanted to talk to y'all about inflation, and I found it very humorous. I wanted to cite an official source here, y'all, so I want to have accurate information. And so I pulled up the it was the Minneapolis Fed. You know, so these are the smart people. Well, one, these are the people that have been given the responsibility to keep inflation in check, which makes their numbers even more hilarious. But so according to they, them, those, and the people that matter for some reason, the unelected officials that matter for some reason and that make all the important decisions, inflation last year, if you didn't know, was 1.2%. So that should really help your bank account to grow and everything, because inflation wasn't crazy last year like you thought it was. It was only 1.2%.
There you go.
And I'm sorry, we're in 2022. So in 2020, time flies when you're having fun. Well, we are in 2022.
2022.
Wah wah.
You thought we were in 1984.
That's a good one, Texas Mom. That's very historically relevant. But anyway, that's another one of our t-shirts, by the way. But anyway, so according to the Minneapolis Fed, inflation in 2020 was 1.2. Wow, that was incredibly low inflation. And then last year, inflation was only 4.7, and so if you add those together, divide them by 2, you get an annual inflation of about 3%, which is great. I mean, that's your cost of living rider on your COLA if you're on Social Security, and if you're on any other type of retirement plan. So you're doing great, and so those are the experts that supposedly say, and I wanted to make that whole correlation there, because that whole consumer price index thing is a total scam and a sham. And we all know about the stuff that we buy, and it certainly isn't just going up a percentage here and there. And that's why they keep certain things off of the consumer price index, and it's also why they completely monkey with the numbers on the consumer price index, and it's completely false. And it's just like everything else. The governments and these bureaucratic, technocratic agencies that are supposedly really smart and have been given the helm and the responsibility of managing and running all these things and making sure that supposedly inflation doesn't happen and all that stuff. And on a, not to be political, the one thing I think as a country and as human beings, I think we need to find common ground. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to all the things that fracture us and divide us as a society and as a country, whatever your political quote unquote leanings are, I'm politically agnostic. I'm relatively convinced that federal politics, they do whatever they want and they work together and they're both on the same team. So it totally doesn't matter. I mean, it's a different flavor. I won't give you the analogy that I usually use. So we talking about inflation. I love talking about inflation. It's exciting. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is exciting. It's not boring.
Thrill a minute. A thrill a minute. Well, and then some stuff they're playing with, right? So it'll go up and then it goes down and then it goes back up. And it's just like, it's all goofy. You never know what the prices are of anything. So you're like, oh, the kiddie pools are $8 this week. I better get them because, oh, okay, at Tractor Supply, they're $24 for a kiddie pool. Like, what in the world? Like,
what is our monthly kiddie pool budget, by the way?
And our monthly kiddie pool budget is part of our survival tactics, and it doesn't count in the budget.
I can tell.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Joking.
Yeah, so we're talking about inflation, and this is a little bit of my background. I was a financial planner for 11 years. That's what I went to school for, and I didn't choose to get out of financial planning. I was kind of forced out, for lack of a better term. And but I'm glad to be out. I stayed out. I've been out since 2007, 2008, 2007, and very thankful for that, and thankful that. But before I got out of financial planning, I was doing a lot of the portfolio analysis, and I saw an incredibly large amount of fiscal chicanery amongst institutionary investment products. And then after the crash, I day traded for a year, so I literally sat behind three large, very large monitors, and this was before you could trade on your phone. So I was stuck in the office all day analyzing stocks, and I could do video after video of all the neat things I learned. But basically, what I learned was that the entire financial market was, besides the fact that it was completely synthetic and derived and a derivative of a derivative of a derivative, which means it was absolutely nothing, it wasn't even a shell game, was that it's completely and overtly manipulated. And if you're a small time investor, if you're not the big pockets behind the scenes that get to trade in the pre-market, like, you can't win. Okay, can you get your 8 to 10% to project your retirement portfolio to help you reach your retirement goal, whatever any of those words mean? Yeah, you could. You used to be able to do that. That's going to cease to continue, just as a news flash if you haven't figured that out yet. But so all of these different learning experiences and life lessons that I experienced in 2008 was one of the reasons why we got out of the market, and we did very well in the market. One of the reasons why we got out of the market was because of all these different things that we learned, and it's all the reasons why I didn't get back into the market. It's much of the reasons why I haven't messed in the crypto market, and it is literally the foundation of why I came up with the idea or this concept of the food 401k and dollar cost averaging into your own food sovereignty and investing in infrastructure, and the concept of what I call dirt coin, which is the substrate for your food 401k, so that you can develop a perennial infrastructure comprised of fruit trees and different types of perennial, mostly fruit, because that's just what I'm into. Texas Mom likes the greens and does all that stuff. And I actually did, when I was developing our original food forest, man, I had all kind of like hachaya and cassava and longevity spinach. I wanted some perennial greens that would work, and I haven't been able to make that work yet, but we're still experimenting, we're still trying. And just because we failed the first couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years doesn't mean that we're not done.
Right. And we have a greenhouse this year, so that's investing in some infrastructure for our food. And basically, I think that's what we realized abruptly back in 2008, is that what is real and tangible and what isn't, what they aren't, like what they can't manipulate, is the food that you grow in your backyard, on your property.
You know, there's
that can't be manipulated.
Yeah, and there's an enormous amount of control when you're, for example, you know, you can buy something with an organic label. What does that mean? That means that only 40% of the treatment of that fruit or vegetable or whatever it might be has to be organic practices. That means that it's either 40 or vice versa. I'm pretty sure that only 40% of the treatment of that organic fruit or vegetable has to be organic practices, which means that it's not really organic. And there's different levels of organics and all that kind of stuff. But the food that you grow and the food that you touch and the soil that you amend and what you do, you know 100% how that's handled, and you are also in complete control of it.
Absolutely.
And that same fruit, whether it's a peach or an apple or a blackberry or a cherry or whatever it might be, or a fig or whatever, that the cost of that is completely fixed, in the sense that you've planted it, you've grown it, and now when you go to harvest it, that price is fixed. But not only is that price fixed, that price that you're quote unquote purchasing it at, if you want to say it in that way, is completely and totally and utterly inflationary proof. You know, so whatever your orange that you buy at the store that used to cost $1 that now might cost $2 or $2.50, that orange you grow in your tree costs the same amount this year that it cost you last year. So it makes those items in your food 401k completely inflationary proof, and you can have you know, an inflationary hedge that is what they call a Fed or a food hedge. One, you're taking control of your own food, your own food system. You're developing food sovereignty, the best of your ability, and don't take control of your food. Don't take control of your food because they're taking control of your food. They've been wanting to take control of your food.
Well, and you can graft trees, you can propagate trees, you can save seed, you can
share trees,
share seeds, share trees.
Trade.
So you have community, you can barter, you can do so many different things that we've realized in just a few years of having this abundance, right? That's what the Lord always gives, is this abundance of things. So when I go to pick through my seeds, I have several years now worth of seeds that we've saved from different things. And
the most amazing thing about it is it's something that you can actually do.
Right.
And there's so much power and control and comfort and peace of mind in that. Like, hey, this is something that I can do. You know, the District of Criminals and all these, the ne'er-do-wells and the easily manipulated folks with lots of stuff in their closet and all that stuff, I can't control what they do.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I vote them in and out. It doesn't matter my opinion, and I'm part of all these like political action committees and give us your opinion and we need you and all this. And I talk to these guys all the time, and I'm like, look, I'll fill out the little thing, but it doesn't do anything. And that's so negative. Oh, somebody commented, why do y'all focus on the negative? Look, there's nothing negative. We live in an unbelievable life. We live a dream, and I pray to the Lord that it stays that way. But there's a lot of people right now. There's a lot of people 5 years ago. There's a lot of people 10 years ago, and they were living a nightmare. And you can live a dream or live a nightmare, but it's largely in part to the decisions you make, the people you associate, the books you read, the ideologies you hold to, the God you serve. It's all correlated to many, many, many things, and it's way easier. No, it's not. It's way more satisfying, fulfilling, and enjoyable to live a dream and make tough decisions. And when you have to make a difficult decision quickly, you make it quickly, but you make the decision and you act on the decision that you make, because short-term pain many times results in long-term gain. I think about when we had to make the decision about moving. I mean, we just did it. And well, what about this? And what about so many people want a paralysis analysis and wait and drag their feet, and they do it under the guise of, well, I just want to analyze and I just don't want to make a mistake. And I mean, we have friends I have a friend that texted me today, and they were going to move 8 years ago.
Yeah, and not here. They were going to move.
No, they were going to move. And
somewhere cold.
They're no closer to moving 8 years later than they were 8 years ago, and they were going to move, and you know, they're suffering the consequences of not moving. I mean, they got to deal with all their stuff and whatnot, but you know, there's no virtue in procrastination. It just does, you know. And while there is, well, if I would have studied this out, and if I would have waited and all these different things, there is some value in that. But it's much like, yeah, so early adopters, like with certain technology, not that I'm a big tech guy, but there's a lot, there's advantages in technology where you can accomplish it more through a certain technology. Now, when the technology is new, it's more expensive, right? So there is a certain value in waiting for the cost of the technology to come down to purchase it, but you lose in that time you wait, you lose the productivity of that technology. And there's a lot that, so you have early adopters and late adopters, and many times an earlier adopter to a newer technology, they've been producing while the late adopter waits for the price to drop, and the amount of production that they've produced will surpass the cost savings of the late adopter, maybe by a factor of 4, maybe by a factor of 10, maybe by a factor of 100. And a lot of that is a very good analogy in analyzing a situation and making a decision. And obviously, yes, of course, we pray about it, we seek the Lord about it, we wait on the Lord, and we search the scriptures and we study and all that. But so many people, I'm praying about it, we're just praying about it. And that being said, I'm not diminishing the fact that you do wait on the Lord. Sometimes the Lord does say, wait. No, you're just going to wait. No, you're not going to. No, you're going to wait. But so many times people use that excuse and they just don't end up doing anything. Yeah, well, and I think, that's kind of the direction I was going in saying that by, what do they say? When do you plant a fruit tree? When's the best time to plant a fruit tree? 20 years ago.
Right.
When's the next best time to plant a fruit tree? Today, right? Because you think about it now, and what makes our life a dream is all the things that we've accumulatively done over the past 7 to 8 years, right? And now we're reaping the benefit of that. And 7 years ago, the economy was really good, and everything was really good, and the sky was blue, and everything was great, and now things aren't. But that doesn't mean that everything's bad and everything's terrible. But we're in this cycle now, and everything is less than desirable. But once the work is done, it is done. That's the power of a food 401k. That's the power of a dirt coin, accumulating dirt, accumulating infrastructure, accumulating food resources, and not putting food in a bucket and sticking it in a closet. And I'm not saying there's an incredible amount of value in prepping and storing food and long-term storage. There's an incredible amount of value, and there's a lot of merit, and there's a lot of wisdom in that. But that is so myopic and
that
short-sighted.
That in and of itself is not going
so
to
completely insufficient.
Sure.
And we do different videos on preparing and all this stuff, and people say all this, well, that's not going to last for 50 years.
Of course not.
Hey, no joke.
Right.
Yeah, of course it's not going to last for 50 years. Right. Really, you want enough to last a season or two. Because you have to have some type of regeneration game plan, because who wants to, armor plate the outside of their house and live in it like it's a barracks for the next 25 years? That's not even a realistic, nobody wants to live like that.
Well, and we can look at history, right? We have on both of our sides, right? We have grandparents, great-grandparents that went through hard times, and we know just from stories that they've shared, the ones that lived out in the country, the ones that lived on a farm, they did not really feel the effects the same as the people that lived in the cities. Yeah. They just didn't. Were they poor? Yeah, but everybody was poor. Yeah. It didn't matter that you were poor. It didn't matter that you didn't have a lot of clothes or things like that. You had food to eat, and you didn't go hungry. That was the point. That was the difference between the country and the city. So we'll have cows, we'll have vegetables. Will we always have oats?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, that's a, you know, that's like a luxury. Those dry bulk goods are luxury items that we've grown accustomed to having. Will they always be there? I don't know. But we can live without them as well. What we do is we just prep for, we're trying to prep towards a year's supply so that way we can have it in rotation. It kind of does inflation proof it for that year. And that's pretty much it. That's really all that does. But the real depth of it comes in the animals, the hunting, the foraging, the learning the life skills.
The regenerative. It all has to be it all has to be regenerative, you know what I mean? It all has to be self-replicating, self-duplicating, regenerative, cyclical processes that are interrelated and technically interchangeable. I mean, our diet can change. You know what I mean? And you can try, fail, adjust, and you can, and many times, I mean, when there's been large economic events and global events, whole nations have had changes in their dietary habits to survive, and that's very common. It's a luxury to think that we're gonna have some kind of cataclysmic event and you're just gonna keep eating your 3 Twinkies and drinking your Dr. Pepper every day for the next 25 years.
It might not be a cataclysmic event.
Right,
even it might just be inflation, right? As we're talking about it, like our friends that are missionaries in Uganda, they were saying over there you have to work a whole week. It would be a whole week's wages to just get 1 stick of butter from the grocery store, like a normal Ugandan family. So
thanks, Cecil Rhodes.
So when they go to the grocery store, they don't like to buy butter or those luxury items that normal people, because she said you'll walk out of the grocery store and if you have a stick of butter, they're looking at you like, whoa, you're rich. And like, whoa, and that would take me a week to just buy that. The great
point, you know, the reason that the Ugandan economy is the way it is the same reason that Zimbabwe's economy is the way it was, and there was all this hyperinflation. It's because the international banking cartel and the ultra elite, we're all being played out. You know, oh, Bill Gates, he's this ultra billionaire and he wants you to eat bugs. And he does. I'm not saying that but Bill Gates' wealth is so minuscule compared to like the really wealthy people of the world. And if you were super wealthy, right, you wouldn't want your face on the news and you wouldn't want people to know your names. And we don't. You know what I mean? It's somebody was talking, it was Musk that said something about Putin. And Putin's not this international bad guy. He is a bad guy. But when it comes to Putin in the Ukraine, don't think that I'm like anti-Russia, because the Russian people are good people and the Ukrainian people are good people. They're both being harmed by their governments, just like we're being harmed by our government, because that's what governments do. Democide has killed more people than any other than global warming, than tsunamis, than natural events.
I think we have a T-shirt for that, right?
Yeah.
If you trust your government, you don't understand history.
I think we have a T-shirt for that. How are we? We are in a place in society where a T-shirt can be more profound than most people. Like 20 words on a T-shirt will say more than the average American says.
Shameless plug. Go check out TheTexasBoys.com.
Shirt shop.
If you haven't already, go to the shirt shop. And our son Matt has designed, I think, a few new designs are on there right now too. So go check them out if you haven't.
So every other country that's suffered cataclysmic. I mean, because the thing about Uganda and Zimbabwe, these are very fertile countries that are very. We talked about this when we were talking about when we went to the islands and how they didn't produce any of their own produce, and these were like black volcanic soil, beautiful, volcanic pedestals that produced in abundance, but they didn't because of governments, and they, them, those, and all that stuff. The people that are here to help and all that stuff.
And the World Food Organization will be sure that you have your Dr. Pepper and you have all your junk.
And that it'll be affordable, that your Dr. Pepper will be affordable.
Be cheap.
Your Twinkies and your Dr. Pepper are going to be very, very affordable.
Stay cheap. Cheap food is not going to
That's how they've been hiding inflation.
Yes.
That's how they've been hiding inflation for the last 20 years is cheap processed food.
Yes.
And now the cheap processed junk isn't, as they can't keep the price down.
But it's still going to be cheaper.
But it'll still be cheaper than healthy food.
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the vicious cycle, right? That is pharmacia, and if they feed you bad food, then you get sick, and what do you know? It's the Catherine Elston Fitz talks about it. It's the slow kill. Right. It's the same pharmaceutical companies that are all joint linked, same with the pharmaceutical companies. So they love it.
Started being very proactive in the early 90s, late 80s. And that's when all this stuff with, the high fructose corn syrup breakfast cereals and all the sodas and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So they will be the last to be affected. So then what are people going to buy? They're going to buy more junk food, right? Because the junk food is going to be less inflated than the good food.
And then when the supply chain drops, they're going to starve to death. Because they're not going to be able to get their Twinkies and their Ho-Hos and their little Miss Debbie snack cakes and chase it with a Mountain Dew. And they're literally going to stink and starve to death.
Or stand in a line.
And
starve to death.
Yeah, starve to death. Wow, you're so negative.
That's so negative.
Wow.
But hey, guys.
No, that's reality.
There's time. There's hope. We haven't,
I'm not going to stand in a line and buy a Dr. Pepper and a Twinkie. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. The Titanic's only halfway sunk, so there's still time.
That's why I'm playing my cello. No.
There's still time, guys. So do the things that count. Do the things that are real. And I think one of the things that you were talking about, getting dirt, and, we talk to other people about this all the time. Like, if you don't want to move or can't move or whatever, you like your house, you're comfy, whatever, get an acre, get 2 acres out in the country, go park a camper, park a tent out there.
I'm doing all this research. What do I plant? Look,
plant a garden,
plant anything.
Get a cow, get some chickens, put it out there. And you know what? You got a great bug out location. You got a great place.
And even if you plant the wrong thing, like, here's the thing, like, you could plant the right thing. You still could very easily kill it. I've killed lots of stuff, y'all.
Sure.
But you're getting the experience under your belt. You're learning, and you're learning firsthand experience what does work and what doesn't work. And what's far greater, in my opinion, than planting the right thing is just planting and learning from it and just trying something. And
because a lot of people say, like, oh, if you get a banner year of this one crop this one year, that next year you probably won't.
Never
it's cyclical, right? Yeah. So if we have tons of peaches this year, well, the next year we probably have a lot less peaches, right? Or anything. It's just like that. So if you talk to people that grow food, that's just the cycle of things. So that's okay.
And that's why you shouldn't have a monoculture. That's why you got to be diversified.
Sure.
You have to have a diversified portfolio.
Right. And the other thing I think that's huge in all of this is it takes sacrifice, right? You're going to have to sacrifice your standard of living. You're probably going to have to sacrifice
your lifestyle,
your time, your money, your energy, your sports, your entertainment, your extra money to go out and eat all the time.
See, if your food was real, you wouldn't have had all this leisure time, right? And if you were buying real food, you wouldn't have had all this extra discretionary money to play in all your sports ball stuff and go golfing and go to the movie theater and do all this stuff, right? And you wouldn't if you were buying real food or growing real food. So if you can't buy real food, you got to grow real food. Well, that takes time, effort, energy, resources, and there's only so many hours in a day, and that's why this is a lifestyle, you know, and you have to change your paradigm. And we're watching the world change. We're watching the globe change, and we're watching
Right.
everybody change in lockstep. So
I'm thinking of a family that we knew 7 years ago.
Okay.
They got rid of everything. They left everything, forsook everything, threw their kids in an SUV, moved down here with like absolutely nothing but like personal items, left it all, didn't care what the cost, came down here. They were willing to sacrifice it all. They were willing to live sacrificially in order to be more self-sufficient, to raise their kids in the country, and just to grow their own food, to have more land, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking now, you were saying sometimes there's a blessing in just going out on faith, doing it first, right? Is it harder now than it was 7 years ago? Yeah. Is it way more expensive now than it was 7 years ago? Yeah, like way. But do it now, because it's going to get more expensive.
Not going to get easier.
It's not getting cheaper, guys. It's not getting easier. So do it now.
And there will definitely be a real estate bubble that'll pop, but when that pops, how are you going to have insulated and isolated whatever the monetary whatever is going to be to be able to take advantage of that? That's why they do it like this.
And you're assuming a lot. You're assuming that you can still have mobility throughout the country, that you can still move around, that there's not some other super mega pandemic.
No, there will be.
That they don't have us locked down like they did Italy.
There'll be another crisis. It'll be great.
And it'll, that it won't be more intense than last time.
No, it will be. They've already said that.
You're assuming tomorrow.
And you're assuming wrong, because, it's one thing to assume based upon whatever, puppy dogs and rainbows and dreams and whatever. But it's another thing to... When they tell you what they're going to do, and then they do it, and then you can't be shocked. I can't believe they did that, No, well, they've been saying that they're going to do this, and then they do it, and it's not like, wow, that's shocking, It's like,
but this other family that I'm thinking of, for example, right, little by little they've accumulated more land.
Quite a bit.
They've learned how to grow things. They've learned how to fix things. Like, there's some skills that don't even get mentioned. Our children they know how to take apart a tractor. They know how to fix things. They know how to weld. They know how to do all of these different life skills. They know how to run barbed wire fence and repair fence and work cattle. And
why do other kids, your kids do more in a day than most kids will do in a year. Somebody just made that comment. Well, why do they know how to do all this stuff? Well, because they're not doing soccer and karate, although I think self-defense is really good, but they don't have baseball every night. There's nothing more retarded than running around with all this organized sports stuff.
Well, synthetic. It's
a gigantic waste of time, and there's no, well, maybe he'll be a major league whatever. Like that's...
And they can go to the neighbors. They can learn how to plant. They can learn how to harvest trees and how to mill lumber, and they can learn how to rope cows and how to steer the steers when they need done. They just have all of these
develop life skills that matter, that they'll literally use on a daily basis.
Yesterday morning, Buddy came inside. I had just woke up. He came inside, and I woke up. I was making my coffee. Hear all this noise going on out in the shop. Well, something buzzing. Machines going. He comes in. He's got a pair of spurs that he's making, right? So he had like the back heel.
And now
part of
Buddy's made a lot of very interesting. Buddy likes to make weapons, okay, and Buddy's made lots of interesting weapons.
Weapons as in
bows and arrows.
Bows and arrows.
But they've never really been substantive. I mean, they've worked and everything.
They've precisely worked.
Right,
though.
but as far as like a real practical, like, wow, look, now I'm going to take that bow and arrow I made and I'm going to go hunt a deer and kill it. No, the level of like finished quality was never. He wasn't even expecting. That wasn't even his like. The premise of the project was like, I'm going to start to finish and. But I mean these.
But he's been honing his.
But these spurs are like unbelievable.
They look phenomenal.
They are fabricated like a master.
And he's been learning how to tan the hides and trap, and he does a tremendous job keeping all the predators off of our property every single day, checking the traps, doing all that. It's just incredible. Yeah. They are life skills that like they wouldn't have had opportunity to have if we weren't here.
Right. It's the real versus the synthetic, right? And it's the food 401k, which is real, and you touch it and you eat it and you know what it is and you know what it's been sprayed with. And then there's the synthetic, the stuff at the store that may or may not be at the store. And part of the large assumption is, well, it'll always be on the shelf.
Right.
And
one of the things that you've been doing with the boys almost every weekend, every other weekend, is taking them out and going on little hunts with them and hunting hogs and just different stuff that, you know, predator protection and stuff like that. But hey, if things get rough, we can eat that stuff. I mean, they're going out and they kill a beaver or they kill a raccoon or you know, different things, right? A hog, definitely, or a deer, you know, if it's on our property and they bring it back and that's our food. Like that's a real serious
skill,
life skill
that like if can positively affect you, and that can feed you, that can clothe you, that matters. It matters and in the short term. And in the long term, it matters. So much of modern day America, synthetic concrete jungle, suburbia, development, whatever, none of that stuff. Your green lawn that's sprayed with 7 and Roundup and all that stuff doesn't matter. It can't feed you. Dude, it would poison you, okay? And it doesn't matter. And it's to stay in this Truman Show artificial world so that you think that Bob and Tom think that you've arrived or you're successful or that something that you've synthetically done matters when none of it matters.
And I'm just thinking back because today, right, I got these little reminder pictures on my phone of our house and our property and when we first came here and what it looked like. And I mean, I was looking at these pictures and I was really just saying like, wow, like all we wanted was an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's all we wanted. We just wanted an opportunity to live in the country and work towards being debt free.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you take that illustration of when we moved,
it's so humbling.
And the amount of money that we had, I mean, we couldn't find anything, and everything with our budget or lack thereof, everything was totally out of the ballpark, and everything was overpriced, and we couldn't. And I mean, how long did we look, and how many properties did we look at, and it was so unobtainable and it was so out of our ballpark, and the fixer-uppers were so fixer-upper and the fixer-uppers we were looking at were bulldozer demo status.
And so was this house when the people bought it, but thankfully they gutted it and they finished it out on the inside, and it still needed some things done, But
the outside was, I wanted to keep the outside. I refer to it as ghetto camouflage and hillbilly redneck camouflage.
Maybe we'll post a picture on the outside of our
we'll have
house
Matt can insert a picture of the house here.
Yes, but it was just
changed a lot. All right, y'all, we've been rambling. We're gonna stop rambling, but we want to encourage y'all, do it now. Do it.
Whatever it is.
Food 401k, dirt coin. You got to get a piece of dirt. Maybe you live in an apartment. Now that has to change, right? I'm just telling you, that has to change. Start researching rent hikes and what they're doing and the way that they're buying up property and raising people's rents. True Stream Media just did a whole real estate documentary on what's happened just in the past couple of years and the way these VC companies are buying.
Sounds like another video.
Sounds like another video. Stay tuned. It's for all the great things that are happening and our positive perspective and outlook on it. But hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye.